Hey everyone, as some of you already know, I have been having some health issues for the past 4 months, and in this video I will share of what happened in detail. I will also share how I am feeling right now, and I will also share some news about the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship Season 2 and the new USDC Patreon page that I just launched. Although I'm still experiencing health issues, this whole thing actually started more than 4 months ago. It was in November last year when my wife and we went to Sydney to film the second season of the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship. Now the crazy part is that on the very first day of arrival, I started feeling really tired and I thought, this is like jet lag and just traveling. But soon enough, during nighttime, my temperature rose up significantly and I started feeling really bad. Initially I thought, I'm just gonna sleep it off, and a couple of days later I'm gonna be fine. But then my health didn't really improve that much, and the participants were arriving and everything was set up, and it was kind of a very sad experience on the one hand, because imagine yourself organizing an event for freaking like 6 months or even more, and then you travel across the whole globe to go and do this thing that you were investing yourself so much into, and suddenly you spend the entire time locked in a room, in a dark room literally, and you don't see anything and you don't experience anything and you don't meet people, and it wasn't great. Soon enough, I learned that it was COVID once I did the test. Once I learned that it was COVID, it became even more clear that I shouldn't be hanging out with anyone. So again, I just stayed in the room and I felt like crap. I had fever. I was feeling exhausted. But then I also felt responsible for the event. So every time I would have some energy, I would take my phone, I would text to people what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. I would make phone calls to make sure that everyone's doing fine. And then I would just pass out, rest for a few hours, come back up, and then again call people, write to texting people. So it was a crazy experience and I did my best to not feel too down about it. I was luckily able to kind of accept, it is what it is, and if I'm gonna worry about it, then it's not gonna change anything. But then at the end of things, obviously it was still a downer to miss out on an event that I was organizing so much and with so much effort. Luckily though, my wife was there, my brother as well was there to help me out, and also obviously Jeff Phillips, the co-host, so they took the load off of my shoulders and they did many of the things that I was supposed to do, especially Gabby. She took on a lot of the responsibilities. Like if it wasn't for my wife, I think it would be much harder to do the whole thing. She really took the director's seat and started telling guys, okay, you guys, you should stand here, the camera guys, you should go here. Like she really stepped up the game, and I think part of the reason why Season 2 was filmed successfully is because of her, so I'm super appreciative of that. Eventually I tested negative and I left the room. I was still keeping distance, I was still wearing a mask, and obviously I felt exhausted. I still did not have much energy, but I did my best to coordinate things and to become part of the directing. And luckily, despite the difficulties, we managed to film a really good Season 2, so I'm glad about that part. But that was not the end of my troubles. When my wife and I finally got back to my home country, Lithuania, I still felt exhausted and tired, and initially I thought, you know what, maybe this is just traveling tiredness, jet lag or whatever, but then it just wouldn't go away. And for about 2 weeks, I just felt like crap. I felt tired, exhausted, and I was always fatigued. Eventually I thought, you know what, I just need to push through, I just need to continue living my life. So I went back to training, I started editing USDC, but I always struggled. It was always difficult to do it. And eventually after about a few weeks, I got seriously sick again. The fever kicked in again, I had a really sore throat, I was coughing all the time and spitting out some nasty stuff. But again, I thought maybe this is just like a winter flu and it's gonna pass. But 2 weeks later, it's still not passing, I still have a high fever, I feel like crap, I don't have energy, and then my wife gets sick as well. So now for about a couple more weeks, we're spending time together in bed, just doing nothing and essentially waiting for the illness to pass. Then after about a month of being sick and having a fever, my symptoms started to slow down and I started to see the doctors to figure out what's wrong with me. Problem was, even though I visited a bunch of doctors, I did a lot of different tests, eventually everybody told me, you're good, you're like a healthy person, nothing is wrong with you. But the problem for me was that I was still feeling like crap, especially on the energy level. My brain wasn't working so well, and I just essentially did not have any energy to do anything. On certain days, I felt so exhausted that I couldn't even play video games. And even if I tried to watch Netflix or like a movie or a TV show, I would get tired super quickly. About 10 minutes after watching it, I was just like, my head just can't take it anymore. There was a day when there was only one specific thing that I could do, and that was like a hack. I realized that I can watch old movies, movies that I've already seen, because it was too taxing for my brain to watch new movies and to take in new information. But if I watched an older movie that I already saw, so I watched The Batman, I was doing okay. I could watch it for like an hour before I need to take a break because I knew what's gonna happen, so it wasn't as taxing for my brain. So again, it was clear that something was off. But another challenge was that people around me were not believing me. They thought like, well, if the doctors say you're fine, you're obviously fine. I did not feel fine. I felt like crap, but even my parents were saying to me like, maybe you're just too much in your head, maybe you're just making this stuff up. And I'm like, no, I feel like crap. I want to edit my show. I want to do something, but I just can't. So that was hard as well because I was questioning myself, like, am I making this stuff up? Maybe something is wrong with me and not my body, not my health. But eventually I started to figure out what probably is wrong with me. And that thing is called long COVID. The more I started reading about long COVID, the more I realized, man, this actually really is exactly what I'm experiencing. And I know that a lot of people, like, you can read about any illness and you can be like, hey, actually that applies to me and this applies to me, and you can accredit any illness to yourself. But I read a lot about different types of symptoms, different types of illnesses, and nothing fit as much as long COVID, which essentially is an aftermath of COVID, which is still not so well understood, but already acknowledged by doctors and science. And it's a phenomenon when after you had COVID, you are still super tired for a long time, and it turns out it affects your energy cells, and it even affects your neurological system of your brain. That's why I had brain fog, and that's why I had zero energy. So I started sharing with people that I have this super shitty condition, just to let people know why am I not posting anything, why I'm not making videos, why there are no updates about the USDC. And then one day a friend of mine who's a professional MMA fighter, he said he has long COVID as well, and he found a specific list of supplements that helped him. Now by that time I was desperate. I was ready to grab onto anything and to try anything. And interestingly enough, the supplements that he recommended really started to help me. Now, it wasn't like, hey, I was sick and suddenly I feel great. It was not like that. But before the supplements, my progress of my energy levels, I was barely making progress. I was after about 2-3 months of having long COVID, I felt like this is gonna take forever. I will never get better. Like this is going nowhere, which was actually quite challenging on my mentality as well. But once I started taking those supplements, I would see that gradually my energy levels started to increase. But then again, the other challenging part was that USDC was on hold, and pretty much my whole channel, the YouTube channel, which is my main source of livelihood, that was on hold as well. Initially, I was optimistic and I was hoping to release the entire USDC season in April. Now that is not feasible, that is not possible for me to do right now, but I did start to get back enough energy to do some editing every single day. And as a result, in about 2 months of such work, I finally managed to edit the first freaking episode of the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship Season 2. And I'm super glad to say it turned out really good. The people who already saw it, who I sent it to privately, or the supporters, they all love it. So I'm really glad that my illness did not get in the way of the final product. In the meantime, because I have such limited energy, I won't be able to make any other videos on my channel, so I decided to completely focus only on USDC for the next 6 months. My channel is going to be dormant, and this is where the next subject comes in. I thought long and hard how I can make this sustainable, because on the one hand, if I would publish videos on my channel monthly, like regular videos, that would postpone the USDC release date even more, because having such limited energy, there's only so much I can do per day, and if I invest the energy in something else but not USDC, I will probably take the whole year until USDC becomes fully finished. And I did come up with an idea how to make it more sustainable. Let me make it clear that the show is coming out for free in its entirety in September on YouTube, but until then, if you want to support the show, if you want to see the episodes early and receive other benefits, that's where Patreon comes in. Generally, I don't have anything against Patreon, but I'm not a big fan of it, because I don't like the sense of being like, hey, give me money. But at the same time, I realized that Patreon can be a great way to have an exchange. So I started up a Patreon page for the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship, and I went out of my way to try to make it as beneficial as possible for whoever decides to support it. Meaning that the supporters get early access as soon as the episodes are done. I'm making an hour-long director's commentary for each episode where you will learn insider details about every single thing that happened. I added other benefits, like merch is going to be sent out to you, and etc., etc. I just really wanted to make sure that it's not like, hey, give me some money, but that it would be an exchange where you support the show and at the same time you feel like, whoa, I'm getting so much for this support. So hopefully the USDC Patreon page looks exactly like that. Starting today, we're also releasing a Discord USDC chat, where the chat will have an exclusive section for the supporters, but the general chat is going to be open to everyone. And we really put a lot of work to make it really great. There are polls, there are discussions about martial arts and self-defense, updates, giveaways. So if you're a Discord user, I would be really happy to have you there. The links are going to be obviously down below. And then quickly before I finish up, I also wanted to address some of the big topics or questions that constantly come up when I am addressing the subject. One of them is people telling me that I should hire an editor. Now, there are two big problems there. One big issue is that I want USDC to be the best possible show ever. I want it to be the highest quality that's possible. I want it to be as high as quality as possible, which means that to find an editor who would do such a job, they would be very expensive. And currently, because I'm not posting anything, my financial situation is not the best ever. And one thing is that I can't allow it financially. But besides that, there's an even more important reason why I don't want to have an external person doing the editing. And that's because I know that no one else will love the project and put as much energy into it as I will. And when I'm editing the show myself, there's a lot of the decisions that come up in the process. Like I'm putting it together and I realize, whoa, actually this would go here and this would go here. There's so much creative process that happens while I'm editing the show, and so much of it is born through the editing process that it's difficult for me to let go of it and to pass it on to someone else when I really want it to be as best of a show as possible. Another question that I was asked a number of times was like, why are you not releasing the episodes right away on YouTube? And unfortunately, I learned through season 1 the hard way is that a lot of people are impatient, and that even a week's break between episodes is a lot for many people. And then one time I asked people to wait for 2 weeks because I didn't manage to make the episodes quick enough, and so many people were upset about that. I was constantly getting crap from people saying like, oh, I will not watch this show anymore because there's too much space between the episodes. I don't care about this show anymore. Like, you should be releasing them every single day or every few days. Like, there was a whole uproar. So I learned the hard way that I need to first make the show and only then release it in a regular pattern, and that if I don't, probably the show will suffer greatly. I know that not everyone is like that, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to offer the Patreon page, because if you don't mind supporting the show and seeing a single episode in about every month, then that's a great exchange. But for people who really want to see the show just like that, one episode after the other, I really want to make sure I first edit the entire season, I prepare the marketing plan, I prepare everything, and only then release the show for everyone to see. And for the final summary, yes, those last 4 months were very challenging, but I am starting to feel better. As I mentioned before, I'm starting to regain enough energy to feel like a normal human being. I'm still not anywhere near to how I was a year ago before the sickness, where I could just like edit videos for 12 hours nonstop and I would be fine. Now I have these clear limitations, but they're expanding, they're becoming bigger, and I'm feeling pretty positive about where things are going to go next. And at the same time, I wanted to use the chance and to thank you very much. When I was feeling really bad, when I had zero energy, I made a couple of posts explaining my situation, and I wanted to say that all of you were so supportive, so understanding. I was already punishing myself internally for feeling like, oh, I'm failing everyone, I'm not delivering as fast these episodes that I wanted to. But then again, you guys were so understanding, and all of you encouraged for me to look out for my health first and foremost. Many of you assured me that the delay in the show is fine, that I shouldn't worry about it too much, and again, that health comes first, and that was really, really helpful. That support really helped me, especially when I felt so down, and your support right now, and to the people who are already supporting USDC on Patreon, that means so much to me. So thank you very much, and I'll be doing my best to make sure that I will give you as much back as possible for your support, whether it's financial or just verbal or in any form. So thank you very much, I really appreciate it. In the meantime, if you want to watch the first season, there's a super cut of all the episodes put together. It's much easier to watch it, it's much easier to share it, so you can click here and remember the good times from USDC Season 1 until Season 2 comes out. So thank you again, and goodbye.